Welcome to the Spectators Podcast. Here are your hosts, Corey and Jeff.
Welcome, spectators, to episode 23. I am Jeff, and to my mic adjacent, wearing an LA Dodgers hat, one of his many plethora of hats he owns. I think he owns more hats than I.
Too many.
I have money in my bank account. Is Corey? Corey, how are you today?
I am all right. We're coming a couple days out of an interesting SummerSlam event and Monday Night Raw, which I hope we can cover as much of it as possible. WWE is interesting these days, but I know you've had the chance to watch the replay of SummerSlam, and
Most of it, yeah.
I wonder what your overall perspective of the event was.
So I'm good. So I'm wondering if we can do this two different ways for our spectator folks. Do you want to go through each match and then
That's what I'm thinking.
Finish it off with our overall thoughts and what our direction is, and then if we have time, we'll jump into what we saw on Raw tonight, or we can just dive into it right now. Would you like to do?
I think it'd be good to go through each match because
Okay.
There are good and bad parts of SummerSlam, and I want to make sure that those good parts are highlighted and we don't have a conversation completely about what the bad things were. So definitely, I think start out right from the beginning, the Becky Lynch and Bianca match.
It was good. So that was one of the matches I did see. I didn't get to see all of the matches, but I did see a majority, a good number of them. I didn't really see the McAfee. And the Paul match, and I think the other one I didn't. Which one I didn't? I missed. There was one more I didn't get to see. Anyways, this was a fantastic match. It was a really good one for me to open this show. It's my first time seeing a SummerSlam. So it was super cool to see it outside. That's something I'm not used to right now because again I'm still. I've never seen a stadium show before, so I think that was really cool. Especially as the night went on, you saw it get darker and darker. I thought that was really cool. Anyways, we're talking about Bianca and Becky, and like you said, even though it was, we've had the same match before, they do really have good in-ring chemistry, and it's even more amazing to know that Becky was dealing with a separated shoulder during the match. And did a hell of a job. But yeah, and Belair retains, and then we see this fantastic faction start with Bayley showing up with Dakota Kai and
Io Sky.
Io Sky, thank you.
She used to be Io Shirai, but for some reason they changed that name to Io Sky. Not sure why.
Probably because most WWE fans can't do Shirai. Just a guess. Anyways, yeah, so I thought that was fantastic. I haven't, like you said, we haven't seen a faction other than Judgment Day, and of course the Bloodline, I guess. And I guess the problem is, okay, fine, there are some factions in WWE.
We haven't seen. Let's put it this way: we haven't seen a new, fresh team up
faction
since the Judgment Day, which has been going kind of sour as of the last, 4 to 6 weeks. So
the Brutes are pretty stale, and as we know, the Bloodline is the Bloodline, right? So, I thought it was a really good match. It was cool to see Bianca retain. Really cool to see Becky go face. That I did not see coming. I don't know if you had the sense of that or not. But some for me, that was definitely a Triple H match because it was a cool match. You saw. Becky turned face, which apparently that wasn't in the plans at all if Vince was still in power. And then you have a faction that shows up of Bayley, Bayley's come back anyways. But two people, one Dakota Kai was already at NXT, and then Io Sky had left the company and has now re-signed.
Right. I'm not very familiar with Dakota Kai. I didn't watch her time in NXT very much, but I do remember Io Shirai now Io Sky. It's gonna take me some time to get that because that faction with Kai and Sky is gonna throw me off, but that's okay. Well, this was one of the highlight matches of the entire card for me. I thought, again, they put together great ring work, great chemistry. Unfortunately, Bianca botched one of her moves out of the outside of the ring and dropped Becky right on her left. I think it was her left shoulder.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
She dropped her on her side. She was supposed to fall onto her back, but she actually fell onto her side, and I could see it right away. She pulled up and she grabbed her shoulder like this, like kind of like squeezed it a little bit, and I'm like, I knew at that point there was some sort of shoulder separation. And she talked about that she's had that in the past, had issues with her shoulder, so I knew something was up there. She pushed through and she managed to get through the entire match. She still used her arm. She still put on a hell of a match, in my opinion. But one of the things is, I think Vinnie Mac really liked this whole Lady Gaga-esque kind of style that Becky Lynch had going. It was a little bit of a different thing from The Man, which is what really got her over with the fans. She became the man, and she was kind of the leader of the company for a couple of years, especially during COVID. She was a face during that time, and I think that Triple H and Stephanie probably did see that the whole act she was doing with the heel, just it was getting a bit stale. Fans wanted to see another face. We've talked about this before. There's so many heels in WWE. We need to see some face characters, and especially those who the fans really want to get behind Becky. They really like Becky, so let's make her a face and let's get her behind. And I think that was the entire time there was the idea of, hey, yeah, let's get her to be a face at the end of the match and all that, but they weren't expecting this injury, which kind of makes a play on
like
other
Cody
things
Rhodes,
they can
right?
do. Exactly. It was unfortunate, but I don't foresee her being out maybe too long. They say several months, but maybe within a month or so, depending on how her healing is going. Hopefully she doesn't need surgery or anything. But for me, I was expecting Bayley to come back. I thought she was going to be there. I thought she was going to be back at one of these events. The cool thing was with her coming out, the crowd popped. But I've never seen this before where they've had somebody come out and then consecutively have others come out like that. And nobody expected Dakota Kai to come out, and absolutely nobody expected Io Sky to come out because they figured she's done. She was done with the company with Vince and everything. So seeing her come back, I think it was Corey Graves who was on commentary, was like, "Oh my God, I thought she was gone. I didn't think she was signed with the WWE." And I was like, that's kind of what fans are thinking, right? So that whole faction and that piece, like Bayley coming back, she's coming back as a heel. I think that was another reason why Becky had to go face, because Bayley's face kick. If you've ever felt like something was stale before, Bayley's face character was the most stale thing in WWE in like the last 20 years.
Oh my God.
Honestly, she when she went and did her heel turn last year against Sasha, and she just did amazing heel work that I would never want her to go back to face. It was too boring. So we knew that there had to be a flip somewhere in the division. I'm happy they did make it Becky. I like the chemistry that Becky and Bianca have. So, you know, if they do come back and have some sort of, maybe they take a swing at the tag team titles eventually. It's something that, you know, both of them have never gotten. So it would be cool to see them add that to their long, illustrious resumes. But yeah, that whole first, I thought, hey, SummerSlam's off to a great start. This is fantastic. Great first, you know, match. And then we moved on from that match to the
Logan Paul
second match, the Logan Paul match. Did you get a chance to see Logan Paul's match?
I saw highlights. I know that I know Paul won actually by using the Miz's finisher.
Skull crushing finale. Yeah.
I know. Ciampa was there. He was sort of mucking around. Then AJ came and stopped Ciampa, then I saw Logan Paul do a frog splash on top of the commentator's table, which I thought was pretty actually wicked. You know, for like, I mean, the guy did box Mayweather, right? Like, it's not like he's not a chump, right? He's not like
no, he's an athlete.
It's not like you or me from the Spectators podcast, you know, going and fighting the Miz at SummerSlam, right? Like he is, right? Like him and his brother, despite everyone's gripings about them, like they do have some athleticism, and I think from what I saw, it seemed like he actually did show up. and it seemed like it seemed like a better match than I think you and I thought it was going to be.
I thought it was going to be a filler match. I didn't think it was going to be a filler match due to maybe lack of athleticism from Paul. I thought it was going to be a filler match because I didn't know how serious his whole WWE contract thing was, and does he really want to do this full time or even on a part-time basis? But he came out and he delivered. Like, you could see he improved from where he was at WrestleMania. I saw him in WrestleMania. I saw him now. I would say there was a vast improvement of his overall skill level. The Miz is a great worker. I think The Miz can make anyone look good. I think he's really good in the ring. He's really good on the mic. He's really good in the ring. But Paul's in-ring work far exceeded his mic work. Let's just put it at that.
I think so.
I loved seeing him use Miz's finisher. I did see Ciampa get in there and get a cheap shot in on the ropes. And AJ Styles came out to save him. His music hit. There was a big pop. He came out, got rid of Ciampa. And I think that really led to tonight, which we'll discuss a little further with their little bit of a feud there. But good match overall. Highly past my expectations. So I would say I went into that match with the least expectations. I think I listened to our episode again, and we had said somewhere around 0.5 is what we expected. And
Right,
and I
you
would
were
say
not
that was
looking forward to that
probably
match.
that was probably a good 4 out of 5 match, honestly.
That was good.
It was very good. Does it mean I want to see Paul more often? Not unless he can fix his mic skills.
Yeah, no, for sure. Actually, quick aside, he's having Triple H on his show tomorrow, hey, on his podcast.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, that's cool.
And he went on Instagram or whatever social medias he have and said like he had a blast and he's gonna want to continue to do more. I thought he actually might show up tonight, but
Yeah, I thought so too.
But he didn't, which isn't surprising.
They likely have him signed to some sort of contract where it's like a
Special
per
events.
match basis. So he probably signed like a 10-match contract or 5-match contract or something like that. That's what I'm guessing.
Well, I wonder if I can see him being at Cardiff probably, or maybe I don't know.
Maybe.
Like he seemed to really like be successful. I don't know what his success rate is like in the UK, right? So
I have no idea.
I know he's a bigger star out here, right? So yeah, no. So it was nice. It was a pleasant surprise that match.
Surprise, for
So SummerSlam was off to a good start. Sorry, SummerSlam. Not like our folks at I think it was NBC who called
NBC
it
was called Super Slam.
Super Slam, and
Three times.
Roman Reigns was trying not to stare at him. He ended up correcting himself, so good on that anchor.
Yeah.
And we moved to the United States Championship match, which was Theory versus our boy, our muscular madman.
Oh, He-Man.
Human muscle machine. Theory. Lashley.
Lashley.
Theory does.
Although
have muscles.
Theory's not a small man himself, so it's
he's
fair.
quite
It's fair
muscular.
critic.
But I think Lashley's muscles could eat Theory probably just because he's got so many. Yeah, it seemed like a bit of it was an okay match, right? Like just from what I saw of it, it's just kind of like meh. I know Theory basically wanted to quit, and Lashley, being the fantastic face he is, just said, "No, you get your butt in the ring and fight me, right? Like don't be a wimp, right?"
We saw some telltale signs on Monday Night Raw last week before the SummerSlam event. We saw some more on Friday. I think they're going in a direction with Theory. He played a very how do I put it? Scared character against Lashley, like even more so than his first defense, his title defense. He basically was getting beat up, walked out of the ring and said, forget it. And the commentators tried to put it as he's trying to keep himself fresh for a cash in later on. We'll get to that. But I do feel like they're going in a direction here with Theory. I don't think he's gonna get the push that he got from Vince. I really don't. I think Triple H doesn't like his attitude. I foresee that they want to build up his character a little more. Maybe they'll see how he can do in a face run eventually. And I think it tells you everything. The fact that he wasn't there tonight. He was not on
Raw tonight. So that was interesting.
But But overall,
So,
back to that match, it was a good match. I mean,
mhm.
for the lack of time it was, I think Bobby can always compete. Theory does do good in ring work. He
Yeah, he
takes
does.
bumps. He plays that character well. That kind of wimpy, scary. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get too hurt. I don't want to hurt my face. That kind of character, he plays it well.
Mhm.
He does.
Yeah.
And I think he did a good job. The match delivered, but they walked out exactly to my expectation. Lashley retained. So
Mm. Yeah, it was all right. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was a match.
a little
Um,
more than filler, a little less
yeah.
than good.
Well, it's just always nice to see Lashley, right? He needs
Yep.
to be on a card like of that scale. So I'm glad he was there. So I guess that was the next match, the McAfee match then, versus Corbin.
I think so. It was either the Usos or the McAfee match. Let's
The
just say it was the
Usos,
McAfee
the
match.
Usos was the third. It was the third to last because it went
Okay,
Usos,
so it would have been
Liv,
McAfee
and
then.
then the main event. So it was McAfee. Um,
Did you see the match?
I didn't see much of that match, no, so I don't have much to comment on. I do know that McAfee won, so that's great. I think I did see a part where Michael Cole was giving Corbin crap because that's his partner on SmackDown, right? McAfee. So
Yeah, a couple interesting points from this match. Corbin lost another match. Don't think anyone has lost as many matches now in a row as Corbin. I think next in line would be Seth Rollins
or Theory.
Or Theory. They both had not the greatest stretch of at least pay-per-view events this year. Corbin and McAfee put up a good match. Honestly, it was a pretty good match. It was fun. Corbin comes out there. I don't know if you caught it on Instagram or any social media, but there was this guy in the crowd that was dressed as Joker. He had like face paint on and like,
really?
and he was right behind Corbin as he was standing waiting for McAfee to come out. And the guy was just like kind of making his faces and like kind of making like saying things to Corbin. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying, but it was kind of cool. It's funny to see somebody so like invested in a character as a fan. When Corbin got about halfway down the ramp, then there was a choir kind of up top behind the stage.
Oh, I did hear that. Yeah,
And the choir was like bum ass Corbin for like a good 50 seconds probably. And then McAfee's music hits. He finally got his own theme. I think at WrestleMania he came out to Seven Nation Army. And then this time he actually has his own WWE theme. Similar kind of style to that song. But good to see him come out to that. Crowd had a massive pop for him. I told you on one of the episodes too, like the fans seem to be really behind McAfee. They really like his character.
On his podcast too is pretty popular, so it makes sense.
I listen to his podcast too. I can't lie. It's funny because we've never really had a commentator who's most commentators are either never touched the ring or they had been like previous wrestlers who got injuries or something like that and then went to the commentating team. But he seems to be able to hold his own quite well. He puts up a good fight. He's pretty athletic as well. Showed really good athleticism in this. And I also say, just like Paul, he put up a better performance than he did at WrestleMania. He showed some new moves. So it was really cool. Just like I expected, Corbin lost. Corbin takes it like a champ and loses. I wonder where we go with Happy Corbin and that character now. I would like to see maybe he revert back to his aggressive heel when he first came in, when he was Baron Corbin. No more Happy Corbin, no more King Corbin or bum ass Corbin. I want to see like Baron Corbin, like his when he first came in, and I hope they can reinvigorate his character. But overall, good match. I have no complaints about it, to be honest. I think they both do good work. Both did good work together. Chemistry was good too.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Like maybe we can dive into it maybe at the end of the SummerSlam. But like, what did they do with the male division on SmackDown? Hey, it seems a little. There's nowhere to go, right? Because Gunther's got the Intercontinental. Roman's got the Universal. Drew is who came out after that and did a promo for Clash at the Castle. SmackDown's men division seems a little lost. Actually, maybe a little bit of the women's too. Well, then we can get into that.
We can definitely get into that.
So,
to your point about McIntyre, you brought up a good idea here. I thought the McIntyre clip was unnecessary filler. Didn't like it. Didn't like him coming out. Talked the whole I'm gonna beat Roman. We need to get these titles back on SmackDown. Yada yada yada. We've heard this, been there, done that. I thought it was a bad promo, waste of filler. Which speaks of us going to the next waste of filler, which was Riddle coming out and calling out Rollins. Riddle came out. Everybody was really shocked at it. I was shocked too. I was like, is he going to wrestle? Like, are they going to have a match? Like, whatever. He said, oh, I'm not medically cleared, but he basically called him out for a fight. Dumb on Riddle. I mean, yeah. Seth Rollins came out right away, stomped him, and it was literally, I think, 1:36 of time, which was just a waste of filler. My partner said somebody on the card probably had diarrhea, and that's why they put them in there just to cover that up. So we were waiting for the next match.
Well, I think you said last year at SummerSlam they had 12 matches and they only had 8. So they had to fill it a bit, yeah. Because actually, I think the Seth and Riddle one was right before the main event. So maybe Roman or Brock was going to get his tractor at that time. So they needed to.
That's probably true. Yeah.
They need to spend some time. So after that, it would have been. So that's 5. So 6 would have been. Usos versus the Street Profits with our special guest referee Jeff Jarrett. Now this one I didn't get to see many highlights. It looked like it looks similar to Money in the Bank. This from the highlights I saw. I really don't understand what Jeff Jarrett did, what value he brought to it. You could fill me in, but it just sort of seemed like this is one of the moments where it was a bit of a downer for sure that they didn't win. I have my thoughts on it, but I'll let you go on this one.
As I mentioned, SummerSlam had a great start. Mm-hmm. As the hours kicked in, I thought the show got worse hour by hour. We're on probably hour 2 at this point when the Usos match started, and we're waiting for it to happen, and JEFFJARRETT walks out. Jeff Jarrett to his country music and Big Papa, I would say. For him, he's from Nashville. We all knew he was working the next night as well, so it was cool. He came out. I was like, oh, it's good to see Jeff Jarrett. I remember watching him as a kid. I remember watching when he owned TNA, started that as well, and. I know the guy pretty well, but I don't know. He came out, looked like he was going to get involved with his whole sleeveless referee uniform. And then the Usos come out, I think, or maybe the Street Profits came out. Street Profits had a great entrance. Loved it. They almost changed their logo to be like the Tennessee Titans logo. Yeah. I thought that was really cool. Really speaking to the crowd. Great face characters. It was... almost an exact replica of what we saw in Money in the Bank, and it pissed me off.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
I was like, basically Jeff Jarrett came out and started pulling them off each other, like every time they were in the ring, and he was trying to show that, like, I'm 50-50 down the line. Every time you getting in the corners, getting heavy, like, I've counted to 5. He got in their face a lot, right? But he missed some stuff. He missed some cheap shots. Typical Uso style, missed some cheap shots. But honestly, I was almost halfway through the match, and I was like, looking at my watch, bored, thinking, hey, any second I'm going to see Roman Reigns or Paul Heyman come out and probably interfere in this match. That's how almost predictable I felt it was. Mm-hmm. And then what happens? The Usos win again, cleanly. I don't think they cheated to win or anything. I think they actually did win this match cleanly, but he did miss a couple of cheap shots from both of the teams, but honestly, there were a lot of points in this match where it really seemed like the Profits were going to win. And I got excited about that because I want to see those tag team titles move. But the Usos won again, and I was very disappointed in that match. And then my speculation right away was once the Usos won, I said to my partner, I was like,
Roman's going to win.
I'd bet money on it. Roman's going to win. She's like, no. See, they're setting this up so that Roman loses, so they can't not like both of them. And then I was like, your logic does make sense, but Roman's going to win. I guarantee it.
Well, for
so
me,
I was already down. I was like, He's gonna win.
I knew Roman was gonna win anyways, but I'll get into why I thought that. But yeah, no. Again, like for me, when I saw the highlights, I'm like, this seems like the same thing. Unfortunately, continuing for me the bloodline, and I have my thoughts on that. I'll save it to the end to my overall thoughts of SummerSlam. So yeah, again, it was eight matches, and that one was it. The last three actually were kind of stinkers because then you move on to Liv versus Ronda. The match itself for me was garbage. Like it wasn't very good at all, which sucks because it was the co-main event.
I have my opinions on this one too.
So, anyways, I'll go do mine, then you can do yours. So it was terrible. Like I don't think they had very good in ring chemistry together, which is surprising because they've been doing a lot of live events together. So I thought it'd be a bit better. Like it was just literally like they just Ronda overpowering Liv. Like Liv looked extremely weak. She got armbarred multiple times. Like Liv never got any momentum. And then where I think it was sort of worth it was the finish, which was she got into an armbar. Ronda didn't notice that her shoulders were on the mat. The ref counted 3, but right before the third hand goes down, you can see Liv tapping.
It's almost at the same time, almost simultaneously.
It was like milliseconds
like
before. So if you're looking at a replay, you probably would have said that Liv tapped out first.
I would say.
Anyways, the ref hits 3. Liv rolls out thinking she lost the match, and then gets the belt. She's like, "Holy crap! I won." Ronda loses it, is not happy. Then we finally got to see the Ronda Rousey heel turn. She snaps, she attacks Liv again, puts her in another armbar, then releases Liv. The ref gets upset, and then she snaps and attacks the ref and puts him in an armbar. So it was sort of worth it, I guess, to see Ronda finally. You and I have been talking about her going heel for a long time. So it's nice to see her snap a little bit, but honestly, like I said this at Money in the Bank too. Like I don't know, like it's like I like Ronda, I do, but like again, this is another main event that I watched her where I was just like, man, like she just doesn't have the main event kind of skill, right? Like again, you look at Bianca Belair versus Becky, the first match, like that was definitely a championship level match, right? I mean, like even Money in the Bank when she fought Carmella, like Carmella held her own. It was a really good match. And again, it's just like it was a bit of it was a downer for like I said to you, I was really excited because the co-main event was a women's match. Like that's something we haven't seen since I've been watching. So I was like, yes, they're finally giving some respect to the women's card. I mean, the crowds seemed to eat it up. I don't know, but that for me was probably, and again, this happened at Money in the Bank too when I watched it. It was like that was probably my least favorite match out of the card. So cool to see Ronda turn heel, but really like kind of a stinker of a match. I don't know how you feel about that one.
The match was trash.
Yeah.
It was disappointing. Liv's got to lose that title. I'm sorry to say, but like, okay, here's my thing. So when Ronda came in to the WWE, she got to go against competitors like Charlotte. She got to go against competitors like Becky, and a lot of time both of them at the same time. Those are 2 competitors that can make anyone look good. Ronda's in-ring work was crap then, and it's even worse now. She's just garbage. I hate to be so blunt about it, but like Liv, I like Liv. I like her character. But she's not championship material. She can't do it. She can't do it. And like I suspected on paper, Ronda's gonna beat her up pretty bad. I like the way they finished this match because it did lead to a Ronda heel turn, but Ronda, you can completely tell she can't uplift another person. She can't take another person who is struggling or trying really hard. Like I feel like Liv is really trying. She really does want to do better. She does want to improve. And I think that's why they gave her a shot. But Ronda's not the type that can bring her up. Now, if you saw her with Charlotte, I think Charlotte would have done a fantastic job of making Liv look really good. Ronda can't sell. She took a hit from Liv and she tried to sell a couple of them, but she just can't sell. And it's just ugly work. And her mic skills suck. it's unfortunate because, you know, we want to see a good heel turn, but unless she's working with someone like Becky or Charlotte or Asuka or Alexa or Bianca, but I don't think she's going to work with Bianca being the champion. It just doesn't work for me. And they
She needs a
decided with
manager.
exactly, and they got her with Bailey, or they got Bailey on Raw now, so now Bailey can't be the one on SmackDown to help her. It goes back to you mentioning that SmackDown just needs an utter change with the roster right now, and I in my opinion, Liv's got to lose this title.
To
I
who,
think
though?
I think Liv needs some more work. Personally, I don't know if you agree, but I think she needs some more work before she can, because she looks weak and she's not believable. She wasn't believable after that. I really like her character, but I'd like to see her do some more singles matches and get back up to the title contention. I
But
say
who
they
do
bring
you?
back Charlotte and Charlotte face off against Rousey for the number one contender, beat Rousey,
It's
and
the same thing, though.
take
You
the
know what I
title.
mean?
And it
But
sucks
it's
because it's the same thing because you don't have anything else.
yeah.
And now you've like you've shafted yourself because you put Bailey on Raw. You already had all the talent on Raw and you put Bailey on Raw. Bad move. Bad move. It makes
Well,
sense because,
it,
you know, it gives Bailey some new environment and stuff like that but in terms of what the WWE needed, they have nothing on SmackDown. They needed somebody like her on SmackDown. So,
yeah.
in turn, they need some shifts. And we've talked about this for a while.
Well, you wonder if Sasha and Naomi goes to SmackDown.
They would. I would think so. They would go back to SmackDown, I assume.
So that was a quick aside from SummerSlam. It was reported today that only 2 weeks being in creative, Paul has already convinced Sasha and Naomi to return, which I think is pretty incredible because they were like, F you, WWE, pretty hard.
Yeah.
I mean, Sasha was like, I'm not wrestling until 2023, and if I do an appearance, I'm gonna charge 30 grand. So I'm like, well, good for you, Sasha. But like, and then it was like, hey, she's going to AEW, right? Like, that's just where it was at. And then not 2 weeks after Vince is gone, it's like, oh yeah, okay, we'll come back. I mean, same thing with Izzo Sky, and well, I mean, Dakota Kai was already with WWE.
I think Dakota Kai was really close to leaving, though. I think her contract had just expired or was just about to expire, so
yeah,
she had plans to leave too.
I wonder if Paige comes back then too.
Paige is an interesting one. Paige is one that she's just been riddled with so many injuries that I don't know if it's necessarily Vince that didn't want her because she was a big draw. She's just been injured so many times. I don't think it's like in hockey, you know, when a good player gets injured really badly and then they're never the same after. I feel like Paige is at that point of her career now, which sucks.
Yeah, I mean, SmackDown just needs somebody, right?
They need somebody.
Like,
we don't want to see Charlotte and Ronda, honestly, but we know that Charlotte's really the only one that can hold up that card right now, or that roster right now. Now, it sucks that we have Bianca, Becky, Alexa, Asuka, Bailey, and then now we have two new additions in Io Sky and Dakota Kai on the roster and they got Doudrop and Nikki ASH. But who do we have on SmackDown? You got all that stacked roster on Raw and no one on SmackDown now.
Just a bunch of NXT folks that need they need TV. They got Lacey Evans, and who was she feuding with on Friday?
Aaliyah is not going to go anywhere. I don't think she's got credibility in the ring right now, but I think they could go somewhere with Shotzi. I do like what I see from Shotzi. I think
Rodriguez too,
and Rodriguez. I think they need to get a little more work in that division, but I think that the more matches they can get under their belt, I honestly think that they have something there. They do.
Is it Mandy Ross? Is that her name? The NXT champion.
Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, she might come up to SmackDown.
Right? I think if they bring her up to Raw, it's a mistake. They got to bring her up to SmackDown, I think. But I'd like to see that. I find that it seems, and this is just something I actually noticed recently, is every time somebody gets called up from NXT, they go to Raw. Almost always. Ciampa, Rhea, Seth, like everyone in the past, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, like they all went up to Raw first. And I find it odd. Like I'd like to see somebody pop in SmackDown. Like maybe we do see Mandy Rose go to SmackDown.
We'll see. We'll see what Paul has up his sleeve for sure. But let's get to the biggest thorn in your side, which was the main event, which was the last man standing match between Roman
Roman
Reigns,
Reigns and
Brock
Lesnar.
What a guy. I actually just listened to him on, I told you, on Pat McAfee's podcast. He's a hilarious dude. All about the money. But have to say, it started out pretty awesome with Brock driving the tractor up and jumps off the tractor and just beating the crap out of Roman. It was a cool scene. I don't know if you saw, just very quickly. When he's on the mic and he throws it to Roman.
Roman caught it.
He caught it so nicely,
Like so smoothly, yeah.
And then he winked at Brock, which I think it was more of like a out of character, like I'm looking forward to doing this with you kind of thing, versus him in character. So before you go on your large, I know you're not happy with the result.
I want to hear your perspective, though.
Well, I want to talk about the match, not about the result. Like, objectively, that match was freaking insane. Like, for me, again, I haven't watched as long as you have. I've taken a break, but that's the best match I've seen in a very long time. Outside of AEW's had some really good ones too, but they were beating mostly actually Brock was beating the hell out of Roman. Like, Roman really didn't have a lot of momentum in that match. I mean, the fact that he threw him in the tractor and dumped him in the ring with the tractor was awesome. Then he just F5s him a bunch of times, just throws him through tables. Roman obviously wouldn't stay down, so then he it's everywhere. The fact that he took that tractor and almost flipped the ring, and you see Roman tumble out of that ring, and then the Usos show up, which we should have all seen coming, but Brock disposes of them. And I think here's one piece of storyline I'm really interested in, is then Heyman gets involved. Though his wording was really interesting to me. I don't know if you picked up on that for me, but he was like, leave him alone. Here's the belts. You know what I mean? Like, you win, give up. I'm really curious how Roman, whenever the hell he decides to show up again on SmackDown or Raw, he'll treat Heyman. Because basically he was saying, here's the belts, don't hurt him, right? And then awesomely, Brock F5'd him into the announcer table, which I haven't said. I don't know how long it's been since Heyman's wrestled, but it was really cool to see him get on the action. And then Theory shows up pretty much right after that and is running with the referee. And like you said, that character's there, which was awesome to see him hit Roman with the briefcase. Roman actually hit his head on the back of the.
He did.
I'm surprised that must have really hurt, but I guess there really is a lot of padding there.
There is padding, but I could see how Roman hit it. He hit it on the top of his shoulders, and he tucked his neck before he hit, so he did it safely. But what a sell! That was a good sell. Yeah, because it looked hard. It looked like it hurt. And
then he had the opportunity to cash it in, but he hesitated too long, and then Brock stopped him, which we thought.
Did he though? Did he though?
He almost got it, and then Brock stopped him. Yeah,
that's what I thought. It was funny.
It was good, yeah. And then Brock basically eliminated him. I also enjoyed that when Roman, got back and started hitting. Eventually got on Brock. He went back and hit Theory a couple times with the briefcase, which I thought was quite funny. But then, of course, a couple spears, a couple hits with the belt, and then they buried him underneath the Rebel. And Roman retains his WWE Championship. So, but before I get into, because I want to get into let's talk about the match itself. What did you think about the match itself, and then we'll talk about everything after that. So, how do you think the match itself was?
Okay, so Brock comes out with a huge pop. Gets on the tractor and drives this freaking tractor down to the ring. I thought it was awesome. Great entrance. Probably one of Brock's best entrances he's ever had. Roman's already there waiting for him to come out. And that already threw me off because I thought Roman was going to come out first and Brock was going to come out second.
Because of the tractor.
They flipped it because of the tractor. Now, there were a couple things in this match that Paul Heyman really did some good work here. The first one was Roman threw Brock through a table on the left side of the ring. And then I think Brock got thrown through a second table, and Brock was the one who brought the first table out. And then Brock took a chunk of the table and whacked Roman across the head with it. And I think as he was going to attack Roman at one point,
Heyman got involved.
Heyman kind of crawled up to Brock and said, no, I've always loved you. I love you. I have always loved you. And then Brock hesitated, stepped back just a slight bit, and Roman, you could see him in the back of the frame, like as Brock was standing there. And I was like, oh, Roman's going to spear him, right? And he didn't. He turned around and they just like kind of hit each other, but he didn't spear him. I was really surprised about that. Maybe he's just not the right spot. But you're right. Overall, Brock was dominating Roman. He was beating him up pretty bad, to the point where I was like, oh yeah, he's going to take the title. But then there was still that lingering, oh, the Usos won earlier, so I didn't think he was going to win. But the Usos, and when I brought this up to you, I was saying the Usos they came out into the entrance with Roman, and they stopped and they went backwards, and then they went halfway across the arena to eventually come out through the fans. For me, the whole match was going well until the Usos came back, and it killed it for me.
What'd you think of the ring though? Wasn't that? Did you think that was incredible?
The ring
coming up with the track.
Yeah. I was reading about that, and apparently, like, he was supposed to do the spot, right? And they had practiced this, but it was a production team member who practiced this first. And apparently he was just supposed to lift the ring up and drop it.
Oh, really?
He wasn't actually supposed to but because you notice how Brock pushed it twice forward a little bit before he lifted it up. Apparently he pushed it too forward, so the tractor caught onto the bottom and he couldn't let it go. He couldn't drop it. So
that was improvised.
So he just left it. Yeah, so he just left it. And then I don't know if you've seen it, but if you go onto the WWE Instagram page, there was a camera placed in the tractor right behind Brock. And it was showing Brock's reaction, and as it was stuck up here, Brock was laughing so hard. Like, I don't think it was meant to happen that he just started laughing. And of course, I'm happy that Roman was okay, because that could have been a stunt that he could legitimately have gotten hurt from. But it was funny. It was great. It was great. It was hilarious, and Brock had a lot of fun, I think, with that match. But yeah, he was completely dominating him, and I'm like, well, it seems like he's gonna win this match. And I honestly thought Brock should have won that match in like 10 minutes. It should have been a short match where Brock destroyed him, because it was the last man standing match. But then when the Usos came out, it killed it for me. I was just like, the Usos came out again. It's the same old. You're almost picture perfect to the same thing. It's always happening. And I talked about this with the Street Profits match. I don't like seeing these matches that are almost like picture exactly the same. He came out, they got involved, Heyman got involved again, and I did like that point. I did like where he grabbed the belts, and he's like, here, take the belts, here are the belts, these are your belts, just don't hurt him, don't hurt my tribal chief. I like that. I liked that Heyman took a bump, because that was a heavy bump through the table, too. Theory coming out, I knew it was going to happen at some point, I just didn't know when, but it was an odd timing for me. Because Brock wasn't really injured or down or out for the count at that point.
Yeah, but they were pretty. Like, if Theory actually cashed in, he was fresh, right? Like, that would have been an easy pickoff for him.
Like,
mind you, the Usos were there, so maybe not. But
like, if you think about it, Theory leveled Roman. Like, he destroyed Roman when he came out. He took that briefcase, slammed him in the head as hard as he could, and Roman was out. He was out for a good couple minutes after that hit. But Brock saw him out of the corner of his eye and grabbed him and F5'd him right onto the briefcase. But I like how Brock grabbed the briefcase by the handle and started like beating him on it, like just like he did on Friday. It just is another point to that theory, what we were talking about earlier. I think Brock just kind of fed to that idea. They have other plans for Theory at this point. I don't know if his cash-in makes sense. So we saw somewhat of an unsuccessful cash-in, although he didn't lose the briefcase.
Yeah, briefcase
which is good.
Intact.
I'm glad he didn't lose the briefcase, because that would have been a complete waste. But he did cash in unsuccessfully, so I there was something interesting there. The match overall, most of the match was a good 8 out of 10. But just match. The point where the Usos got involved, Roman speared him 3 times, 4 times, Brock had me up, he grabbed the title, he hit him, grabbed the other title, hit him. It got too boring for me. I was just like, I think I had said, as the match was going, just end it here. Just end it. Just finish it. Like, we don't need to see Brock get hit by 2 titles, get speared 6 times, I was just kind of bored at that point. I was done with the match, and I just wanted it to end. I was quite frustrated.
To me, I saw that as like an admiration for Brock because it was
Oh, for
like,
sure.
look how much he had to do just to get him to stay down, right?
Oh, for sure. They had
So
to
I think
stand. They had to bury him and stand on
literally,
the table. I think
which is
two of
it's
them or
yeah.
three of them stood on the table.
No, it was just
Roman did, but
Roman.
I thought that Uso was on the edge of the table too. One of them,
Jay
but
was bringing a chair by the time the count
oh,
was at
okay.
9, so really it was kind of a moot point at that juncture. But so yeah, so Roman retained in spectacular fashion for me. I think the match, even though the result was irritating, to me it was expected. I did actually see Roman winning this match for a multitude of reasons, but yeah, so I'll let you go first because I know you've had lots of thoughts and feelings on this card in general and the direction. So what are your overall thoughts and
On the card
feelings? Yeah,
altogether.
like on SummerSlam, on the results and things like that. What you've been ranting at me for the past day and a half.
I still give it a 5 out of 10. I think it
Mhm.
wasn't a very good card. I like Money in the Bank better. I even thought Hell in a Cell was better than this card, and that's pretty sad.
Oh, that's
Um,
pretty scathing review.
the reason I say that is because you started out with such a good SummerSlam. You gave us an expectation that you couldn't withhold for the whole card. The
Hmm.
last three matches were just not that good. The live match was we both said it was garbage as a
Yeah, it was
co-main
very good.
event. The tag team match was just too much of the same thing, and
Hmm.
then the last man standing was just too much of the same thing. And I think the crowd, the WWE Universe really wanted Brock to win that match. And I think there's a lot of disappointment that's going on within the
Hmm.
community right now. Um, First, I would want to get to something that doesn't irritate me, and that's Theory.
Hmm.
I think they played their cards well with Theory at this
I
card.
do too.
I think that's the
I
best thing
agree.
they do. I truthfully believe, and I think you might disagree with me here. I think they're setting up Theory to lose this briefcase. I think it's
Mm.
coming. I think that's why we won't go too far, but I know Dolph was in a qualifying match tonight, and he was eliminated. Right, he didn't win the
Hmm.
match, so
That's right.
I believe they did that on purpose because I think they're going to continue this feud with Dolph and in
Yeah,
theory,
it's unresolved for sure.
it's unresolved for sure. And if they just leave it at that, then it was a waste of the last 3 weeks.
Hmm.
I foresee Dolph probably pulling off this briefcase from Theory because I think Dolph is a bigger draw right now. I think
Mm.
Theory's just not at a big enough draw for the fans. I don't think the fans are behind him enough, and I think they need to do something about that. I do think Theory may have a face turn in the future. I don't know
Mm.
when it'll happen, but I do see it potentially happening to get some crowd backing. He just doesn't
Hmm.
have enough crowd backing right now. I saw it in the Lashley match. No one wanted him to win. No one wanted him to cash in,
He wasn't
but
going to win. That was pretty
he
obvious. He
wasn't
wasn't
going to
winning
win. It
that
was too
match,
obvious.
especially
So
with
I
Paul
think
at the helm.
Theory they have other plans for. I think
Hmm.
we might see a briefcase get exchanged to Dolph. I mean, if it's not Dolph, it might be somebody else. But I do
Hmm.
see it getting pulled off Theory just because he still has that accolade. He can still say he's the youngest U.S. title. He can still say he's the youngest
Money in the Bank holder.
Money in the Bank holder. I think those are two amazing accolades that he can still have in his career. Is he John Cena? He's not. He's not quite there yet.
Not even close.
He's not even close. So we need to give him some time. And I'd like to see him maybe move to SmackDown. To be honest, I
Mm.
think it would be an interesting way to do things because we do see the SmackDown card lacking, and I think Theory can probably bring a very underdeveloped card like that up a little bit more because there's just so much talent on Raw.
Hmm.
That's what I'm thinking. So
I mean, Bobby
I
Lashley's the U.S. champion. That shows you how much the men's side is stacked there, right?
exactly. Um, so that's my non-irritating point. If we move on to my irritating point, I'm done with the bloodline. I'm so done. Like I'm so far done beyond with the bloodline. I unfollowed WWE on Instagram last night.
Oh,
I
that's angry,
unfollowed them
Corey.
on Twitter. I decided that I wasn't gonna watch Monday Night Raw tonight, and I did not watch Monday Night
You
Raw.
did
I kept
not.
up with Instagram, but I didn't watch Monday Night Raw. And I'm gonna keep that going, and I'm not gonna watch Friday Night SmackDown either. I'm gonna see how this goes over the next couple
You're a
weeks.
hurt man, Corey.
I am done with the bloodline. And I thought I would feel a little, I will be honest, I would have felt a little better if one of the two options lost the title. If we saw the Usos lose the title and Roman retain, or Roman lose the titles and the Usos retain, I would have been okay. But just like a lot of the wrestling community right now, I feel like the WWE does not need to continue hijacking 6 titles for 3 men. It's BS. It's not fair. It shows me that if Brock can't stop Roman in a last man standing match, no one can.
So, but he did though. So, if you're done, I will offer my counter.
We can go counter back and forth a little bit here.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to hear what you say.
What I think of SummerSlam is that Paul Levesque, Triple H, had to work with something that was already in place, if that makes sense. He became head of
An already approved card from Vince.
He became head of creative a week right before SummerSlam. You can't take Brock Lesnar out of that. You can't change the Uso match. You can't change a lot of stuff, right? I think the only thing they added was the Judgment Day, if I remember, if I'm correct on that. And there's only a few small things they added, right?
See how irrelevant the Judgment Day is? We didn't even talk about it when we went over this.
All right. Edge returned.
So Edge returned, and I thought it was a really cool return. I was really happy to see Edge, but I felt like it was a bit lackluster. He didn't do much. He came out, he
speared
attacked
both of them.
I think he attacked Damian on the way to the ring, then he speared both of them.
Yeah.
I also felt like Ripley didn't do much in this match. I thought she would get more involved, but she didn't.
I forgot. We forgot about the Judgment Day.
I'm sorry, we
That's
forgot
so
about you,
funny.
Judgment Day, but
That's so funny.
yeah. Happy to see Edge back.
Me too. And he was prevalent on Raw tonight. But anyways, I really think SummerSlam was the last. Why I think many wrestling fans are so frustrated, and I am too. I didn't want to see the Usos win. I knew Roman was going to win, and I'll get into that in a second. But this was the last Vince show in WWE history, in my view, because everything was pretty much play. You cannot change a card of that magnitude in over a week. However, you saw some of the Paul touches, right? You saw Bayley return. You saw Dakota Kai and Izzo Sky come in. Becky turned face. Ronda turned heel. Brock lifted the ring, even though it wasn't supposed to be that high. He lifted the ring, and I think that match was pretty Attitude Era-y, right? Like not obviously the full way, right? So I think Paul did what he could with something that was already pre-approved, right? Now, what I also noticed when I came to Paul is, and I don't know if this was pre-approved or not, he ended some of the Vince-esque types of things. By turning Becky face, there's no more repeat of Belair and Becky, which people are tired of. One of the reasons why I didn't think Brock was going to win was because they had tabled this as the last match they're ever going to have against each other. If Brock won, that wouldn't be true, right? Roman would automatically get a rematch. Also, Brock was brought in under desperation, right? Because Randy Orton got hurt, Rhodes was hurt. They needed somebody, so they brought in Lesnar, right? So I figured Roman's probably going to take this one home, right? Now, the two most frustrating things I think fans have is the bloodline, right? Usos retain and Roman wins, right? So here's my optimistic view on that. One, I think the reason why the Usos retain was because Montez Ford is destined for a singles career, and it was actually it was foreshadowed today on Raw because Seth Rollins was feuding with them and saying you guys should break up. I think you need to figure it out. So there's a bit of a foreshadow there, and Montez actually had a really good match with Rollins. I mean, anyone who faces Rollins is going to have a good match, right? So I think as annoyed we are with the Usos retaining, I think their time is coming up soon because I can't see Paul now that he has full control, because there's the next Clash at the Castle is coming up, which is 5 weeks away. It's plenty of time to really put this together in their view. Now for Roman versus Lesnar, I don't see it the same as you that he is unbeatable. If Heyman didn't get involved, if the Usos didn't get involved, Roman's not winning those titles, right? He needed them, right? He needed them to super kick. He needed Heyman to get involved multiple times. If I'm Drew McIntyre, I'm going to that ring and saying those belts on your that you're wearing right now should belong to everyone in your team because you can't win a match by yourself, which I think is pretty accurate, right?
I think it's accurate.
And I think what that match showed is that Roman can't do it on his own, right? When push comes to shove, he can't, like, he's beatable, right? I mean, Lesnar's a beast anyways, right? I mean, like, let's be honest, right? Like, you probably would need an army to take that man down, right? I mean, Drew's the same. Like, Drew's a pretty strong guy, right? Like, I think he'll have a really good match for him, and I have a really good feeling that, you know, I thought SummerSlam might have been the end of the bloodline, but it makes sense with Vince still being in charge of this card that it didn't. And I'm encouraged because of what we've seen so far since Paul's been involved in the card, and the matches are better. Like he's bringing talent back that said they never come back with when Vince is in charge. I mean, like literally 2 weeks in, and
There's
Sasha.
a level of trust for sure.
There is, right? So I am cautiously optimistic that yes, there were some frustrating results from SummerSlam. I agree. Like I agree. Like the Usos match was boring, right? But it's when you troll out the same thing, it's going to be boring, right? It's the staleness thing we talked about. But Paul couldn't do much with that, right? Because it was already approved. The Liv and Ronda match, that again, like Liv won the title before Paul wasn't. Paul was even back in WWE. Stephanie was there, and I think it was the right move to give Liv the opportunity to add a new face and a new feel to SmackDown, right? Like we were talking right before that SmackDown needed somebody new, right? The match was garbage, but I mean, there's not much you can do, right? With two people that are, one person's new, one person really doesn't have the in-ring talent to match the pedigree that their name brings, which is Ronda Rousey, right? I mean, look at it now, with Paul being in control. She has now been fined, and I'm doing air quotes for the folks who are listening on the audio, fined, and air quotes again, suspended, which means she's not going to be around for a bit, right?
Yep.
And I think that's telling, right? So I know you're frustrated, and you have a lot more history with this than I do. So I'm coming at it a bit more fresh, so I have a bit more of a different perspective on things, right? And I just, from what I've seen since Vince is gone, I'm really encouraged. Even tonight on Raw, I'm really encouraged with the product. Like, Raw was a fantastic. It ended weird, I have to say. Like, the ending on Raw tonight was weird. Like, they did a whole tag team match with the Usos just for the Judgment Day to attack the Mysterios, and Edge to quasi-attack the Judgment Day. Speared Dominic by accident, so I'm wondering maybe if Rey and Edge will attack the Judgment Day together. But again, you're sort of continuing. Anyways, it's not perfect, but like for me, like I'm like, if it's the same thing after Clash, and we're feeling this way, then nothing's going to change. That's how I feel. I'm willing to give them one more pay-per-view to really show us how things. I mean, like, for example, if you look at Raw tonight, Ciampa, before Paul was involved, it was like a filler. Like, he didn't do anything.
He just attacked people for Miz.
And that's it. Now, next week, he has a title shot against Lashley, right? So, like, you're already seeing changes. I mean, like, and I said to you, like, half of the card was the women. Like, it was, they attacked constant people. They were on the screen multiple times. And then eventually, like, it ended up in an AEW style brawl, because Bianca was fighting, and they were giving a new star in Izzo Sky an opportunity to go up against Bianca, and Izzo Sky, I think, performed pretty damn well, and worked really well with Bianca, right? Even though she was super strong and powerful, Izzo was like light, and it was a really cool like match of back and
good
forth.
Matchup of talent, different styles, which is
right.
Good.
It wasn't
and
the
I think
typical...
Triple H is the type that likes different clashing styles, whereas, and I don't say that to do with AJ Styles, but like They do. They really do like that look where, you have a high flyer versus a power guy, or like
Mm-hmm.
a speedster versus a power guy, someone with agility. Um, and with the females division too. And I think Vince is like, oh, they both look good. They're both power guys. Throw them
Mm-hmm.
together. But Triple H doesn't see the value in that. I do see small changes that look good. I thought that tonight's Raw, from what I could see, was a little bit of a crapshoot. I think they threw a lot of stuff together really quick, and I think they had so many ideas flowing. And Triple H just talked about this, where he's like, "I want to take ideas from everybody. I want things to come
Mm-hmm.
from every direction." I think this is maybe he's got to be cautious about that too, because I think you're going to run into, because there is a creative team. It's not just Triple H making that decision, and if he is going to be open to making more decisions than Vince was, you might run into some ideas that there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. I thought
Mm-hmm.
tonight having two triple threat matches was kind of interesting,
It's
but
tournament style almost, eh?
yeah, but with Ciampa coming up on top, I'm seeing issues here. So I'm
Mm.
seeing issues on the card, and this is where I'm just giving you my own experience too. We'll take the bloodline aside for a second, but tonight's Raw, it's not the time to break up Street Profits unless you're gonna really push Montez forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting call out there. But they need somebody to compete with Seth Rollins. I think, he's already injured two of his opponents now, so we gotta have
Yeah.
somebody out for him. You gotta remember Ciampa's an NXT guy, so he's a
Mm-hmm.
Triple H guy. Io Sky is a NXT girl. She's a Triple H girl. Dakota Kai is a Triple H girl. So there's an undeniable bond between these individuals and Triple H's trust, because you're going to start to see more people come up from NXT, right? We'll probably see Braun Breaker come up soon. We're going to see Mandy Rose come up shortly. We're going to see people like Johnny Gargano probably get re-signed to the WWE,
Mm-hmm. I've heard his
and
name a
face
few
off
times.
against, yeah. So he was
Hopefully Bray. Hopefully Bray.
hopefully Bray, but I have my hesitations there now, because
Mm-hmm.
there's valid reason for Bray to join AEW. There is.
Mm-hmm.
There is, because Dark Order and Brody Lee Jr. Brody Lee Jr. is Brody Lee's son, who was Bray's best friend, who passed away, unfortunately. And there is validity there for him to lead that Dark Order. But if he comes back to WWE, Triple H does like Bray. I don't think there's any problem there, and I think they have a good relationship together. Not saying that I think Bray had a bad relationship with Vince. I just think Bray was too creative for Vince's liking.
Oh yeah.
He's a creative monster, man. He's really good at ideas. He's got a lot of things that flow, and I just don't think Vince likes being taken over by talent.
That's how
So
you
I do
lose to
see
Goldberg. You
yeah, why you lose to Goldberg. But I do see a lot of this NXT stuff, and I will say I probably will see more NXT guys and girls come up, and Triple H kind of give them chances, which is good. That's what NXT's for. Vince lost that. He doesn't see the understanding that NXT is a area like a farm team to get those people to develop so that they can come up. Vince was always someone who he'd bring somebody in NXT. Triple H would mentor them. He'd do whatever he can with Shawn Michaels, etc. They'd become great. They'd come up to the WWE. Vince would change their gimmick. Vince would change their name. And it's like, why do you develop somebody for so long, change their gimmick? Why do you do that? I saw it last night. I saw it at SummerSlam. Io Shirai got changed her name to Io Sky. Now, did Vince have something on that, or is that Paul? Did Paul also make that decision, or is that Stephanie? So we don't know that, but that seems like a small enough thing that it wouldn't matter if Vince approved it or not. They would be able to change it. So with that, Vince had his guys. H is going to have his guys. I don't know how I'm feeling. I have to see some more time here.
Oh,
but
I agree.
I do feel like there's no competition for the Usos right now. I think the tag
The Vikings,
division,
look how scary they are.
the Vikings have to get through the New Day, and nobody wants to see New Day champions again. They've been champions way too many times. Unless it means taking out the Usos, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot there. There's not a ton of tag teams in the division that are really credible. I feel like Alpha Academy, they're good, but they've kind of made them into a joke. They've kind of made them a comedy act, and I don't like that. Maybe we'll see them change under Triple H. But one thing is the Usos don't seem like they're going to lose the titles anytime soon, and that makes me feel like Roman's not going to lose the title anytime soon. I do feel like he's not going to be at Extreme Rules. I think they already confirmed that he's got something
Sounds
going
like
on.
it.
And if that's the case, then we have Survivor Series, which he's probably not going to be at Survivor Series, because if you think about it, Survivor Series is usually champion versus champion. What's the point, right? So unless he loses at Clash, then he wouldn't be at he won't be at Survivor Series, and then we don't have anything in December, so we have Royal Rumble. Then we need somebody to compete against to win the Royal Rumble and compete against them in WrestleMania. I think he's going to lose the titles to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39. That's my speculation.
I thought it was The Rock he was supposed to face.
He is, but they can't confirm that. They can't lock that down yet. I think The Rock has a lot on his schedule, and it's too far in advance for him to like commit to something like that in case he gets another movie deal. The thing is, if Roman loses the titles before that point, like let's say he loses them at Royal Rumble, it doesn't really matter because The Rock and him, it's such a big draw. They won't really need titles involved, I don't think, because The Rock doesn't need to hold titles. He's a part-time guy. But I think The Rock is bound to beat Roman. Like, I think it makes sense. If you look at the bloodline and like The Rock will come out and be like, I'm the real head of the table. You got to get your act together, like Squirt. I think something like this will happen. So it doesn't really matter if he has titles or not, and there's titles involved. But I think they have their eyes on the prize for a long time that Cody is going to be the next big face as a title holder.
Yeah, Rollins said he wants to go after Roman too. So I wonder.
True. I wonder if he perhaps maybe wins the titles right before WrestleMania, and then Cody comes back and gets his redemption on Seth. That could be something.
Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of the WWE Universe that feels like you, Corey, and just are tired, and I think are either one of two ways. And we should probably wrap it up after this because we've got a long time.
Right.
I think to close off, I think this is where I think the WWE Universe is feeling. One is they are so tired of how you're feeling that they are dying for something new. So they're very, very, like, if you look at Twitter, for example, I seem to have the folks that are just very excited to see what Paul is doing because it's such a different feel, right? Like, I think the card was fantastic. Yes, I agree with you. I think there was a lot of ideas, and they didn't have commercials in the first hour. There was so much going on, which I think is another incredible change. You wouldn't see in the Vince era. So I think there are so many fans that are just like let's just please give, like, I'm willing to invest if you give me the change, right? And so far, I think it's paying off in small dividends, right? Everyone is really talking about Brock lifting that's the ring, right? So that was a nice creative change, right? So there's that one side, and there's the other side where it's just like, you know what? Like you said, I've seen this rodeo before. Like, you really got to show me before I invest back again, right? So like the casual, like they're watching AEW, right? Like they're like, oh, that's great, like all they're gonna see is that the Usos won and the Roman won again. They're like, okay, well, I guess nothing's really changing under Paul, right? So I think the WWE is not hurting for fans; they still have lots. But
no, they still have lots. Yeah,
I think the reputation is hurting a bit, right, from the Vince era. So I think there's some work that needs to be done. I think how you're going to signal that is Roman losing the title, or the Usos for them. The bloodline has to be affected in a way, and I see a path now with what happened at SummerSlam with just how Roman won. Like, he needed everybody, right? Including, and especially the other piece I'm really curious about how Roman's going to react whenever he's scheduled again is Heyman saying, take the belts, don't hurt him. Because I can see Roman taking issue with that, especially with his character. So really, because you said to me that the idea is that the bloodline's going to crumble from
the inside,
which it might be Heyman, right? They might not like Heyman, and it could snowball from there. So we'll see. I think they're at an interesting fork in the road right now. So I think Clash is where you're really going to start to see if this is going to be different or it's going to be pretty much close to the same. So We shall see, but I think we'll stop there before we go on our rant and make our Reds faces red. Sorry.
I gotta
So
say, I am most looking forward for a week from Wednesday. Quake on the Lake, Chris Jericho versus John Moxley, because that is another stale piece. Was John Moxley holding on to this interim for so long as well? I thought it would give kind of being an interim. I thought it would kind of be flipped around to give other people opportunities while CM Punk is away. But we'll talk about that on our next episode.
absolutely. Well, spectators, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe on YouTube, leave a comment, and please also write a review of the written or leave a star review on our audio side of Spotify and Apple. But other than that, as I always say, my beautifully bearded friend, thanks so much for chatting with me this week.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you at the next one.